From supply chain disruptions to bold new innovations, the transportation and logistics world is heating up. Join top industry minds as they tackle M&A and reveal what's steering the future.
All right, we are back for another special edition of The Hot Seat, a little heat in the street with my friend John Lynch, Senior Vice President, Federation of American Trucking Associations. John, welcome to The Hot Seat.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we just came off a great panel. We're kind of wrapping up the annual conference here. So I know you put a ton of work in this. How are you feeling about the conference so far?
Overall, very good, actually, especially considering where we are from the economy, which is obviously a very frequently discussed topic. This going on 3 years of a freight recession hasn't been easy for anybody. So we're certainly appreciative of those who did show up here today and supporting the industry. If we're going to move forward as an industry and achieve the objective we want to, we have to do it on a unified front. And so that's what we had here today.
Well, a very engaged group throughout the entire conference here. What were some of the highlights that, you felt were kind of key anchors to the overall agenda?
I think for the overall agenda for ATA, again, it's really the number of people that this brings together, whether you're big, small. I think it's misperception that ATA is always mindful of the mega fleets. But the feedback I always get from carriers is that an event like this allows you to sit down and pick the brain of somebody, one of your peers or competitors, that whatever it may be, and kind of learn tricks of the trade and what they're doing well, discuss some of the issues you're facing with your company, which you really just don't have the ability to do so anywhere else. You have to have that kind of captive audience to be able to bring people together where you can have those kind of candid conversations. And in the meantime, you also have a lot on the advocacy front that the industry is always going to be facing. And this year has been, as you'd expect with the Trump administration, rather frenetic. But we've been fortunate to have a whole lot of success, particularly on the environmental front. We started quietly meeting with the then campaign back in July of last year to kind of explain the impact of what the EPA regulations are or the forthcoming EPA regulations were, and particularly also handing things off to California and letting them become the de facto national standard agency. So now we're pleased to see where we are at this point. We've gotten, I think, 6 rules overturned and repealed, and we're working now on the low NOx standard.
To hear California becoming the de facto of anything is pretty frightening. No disrespect to my California friends, but obviously for trucking, that's pretty problematic.
Yeah.
So as we look forward, I mean, I know how this works. We're barely kind of wrapping things up here, and I'm sure your team is already kind of looking forward in terms of what's going to be the most important place for us to impact and to serve the members of this group in 2026. How are you all thinking about that?
I think lawsuit abuse is going to continue to be a ever-present issue. When we really first started looking at this back in 2018, 2019, and started formulating a game plan, and someone said that, we need a 10-year program. And I said, this issue is never going away. You're talking about the trial bar. They have huge reserves, a big war chest, but we need to be active at the state level and eventually active at the federal level. We now have multiple bills introduced at the federal level, and we may actually have a real chance of seeing some success at the federal level. Third-party litigation financing, trying to fight that and bring some transparency to that, and trying to protect our carriers so that it's not, for a small carrier, a NECA verdict is essentially just hand over the keys. But for everybody, it's having a tremendous impact on insurance rates.
Yeah.
So that's really where it hits the day-to-day. We're going to continue to see that. Where we go on the tariff front is going to be have major implications. I mean, the cost of new vehicles is skyrocketing when you look at tariffs on aluminum and steel coupled with tariffs on heavy-duty trucks. And what creates a tough situation is a lot of these business operations from a manufacturing standpoint were set up to be in compliance with USMCA, and now they're no longer compliant. So the carriers are the ones who ultimately feel the effects of that as all those prices get passed on. So we're going to have to figure out what is our strategy going forward. How long are these tariffs going to be in place? How much of a ploy is this to force negotiations, that kind of thing? So we're going to be watching that very closely. From an operational standpoint, safety will always be ever present. And when you look at something like, it's got a lot of press lately on the English language proficiency, the non-domiciled CDLs, that kind of thing. But cabotage is also a major issue. And how do you bring the various aspects of the federal government that each have a piece of jurisdiction, bring them together to actually enforce cabotage? And that's not an easy one to solve. So we'll be working pretty closely on that.
I know you will. So last thing here, I'm super encouraged by how much engagement, participation that showed out amidst all the challenges within the industry right now. But there's still some folks that probably should be part of American Trucking Association that are not. As we move forward into a new year, what advice would you give them, or encouragement to engage so they can have these types of conversations with their peers? What would you tell them?
I think it starts at the state trucking association level and moves up. And Bill Hill mentioned it. You're either at the table, or you're on the table. And if we're not unified, if we're going off in disparate ways, and then everybody kind of speaking with their own voice, then lawmakers don't take you seriously. Mm-hmm. It's just, they'll basically go home, get your house in order, and then come back and talk to us. Because I'm not going to go out on the limb for an organization and an industry that is completely all over the map. I don't know what you stand for at all. So we're looking for unity, membership. Again, you got to be involved. Membership gives you a voice and helps you guide where the association, the industry goes in the future.
Well, thank you for sharing your voice with our audience. That's going to do it for us.
Thank you.
Sir, in the hot seat, we will see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.